Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're getting into some really interesting source material.
Yes, we're looking at a specific passage from the book of Numbers, chapter 31. It's verses 25 through 54.
And this part of the text, it basically picks up right after the Israelites have won a pretty major battle.
Right, and our mission really is to explore what this text shows us about how people respond to feeling protected or provided for. It's a fascinating principle.
Yeah, it is. So our sources are mainly the scripture itself, Numbers 31, and some notes we have that highlight a key theme running through it.
So picture this. The fighting's over, they've won, and now the big job is figuring out what to do with all the spoils of war.
And there was a lot of spoils.
Oh, absolutely. The Lord gives specific instructions about this plunder to Moses and Eleazar the priest.
How much are we talking about here? The text gives numbers, right?
It does, and they're pretty huge. 675,000 sheep.
Wow.
72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 captured female persons.
That is just a massive amount of everything.
Yeah.
So how on earth did they divide that up? What were the instructions?
The command was clear. Split it all right down the middle. 2 equal halves.
Okay, 2 halves. For who?
1 half was designated for the warriors, the soldiers who actually fought in the battle.
Makes sense.
And the other equal half was for the rest of the congregation, the folks who stayed back.
Okay, so a 50-50 split between the front lines and the home front, sort of. But it wasn't just a simple split, was it? There was something else involved.
Exactly. There was a required contribution, like a tribute, that had to be taken from each of those halves.
Ah, okay. A mandated part. Tell us about that.
So from the warriors' half, the instruction was to take 1 out of every 500.
500?
Yes, of the people and the animals in their share. And this portion was specifically set aside as a contribution for the Lord given to Eleazar the priest.
And the text even gives the exact numbers for that share, right? It's incredibly detailed.
It is. It works out to 675 sheep, 72 cattle, 61 donkeys, and 32 persons going to the priest from the warriors' half.
A tiny percentage, really, when you think about the total haul they got.
A very specific, small fraction. Now, the congregation's half, their tribute was different.
How so?
From their share, the requirement was 1 out of every 50.
1/50th. That's quite a bit more. 10 times the rate.
10 times the rate, exactly. 1 out of 50 of the people and animals from the congregation's half was to be taken and given to the Levites.
The Levites who were responsible for the tabernacle for its upkeep and service.
Precisely, those who guarded and maintained the tabernacle. So a larger portion from the community supporting the central religious service.
And the text emphasizes, that Moses and Eleazar, they did this. They followed these complex instructions to the letter.
Absolutely. The division, the tributes, it was all carried out exactly as commanded.
But then, while all this careful accounting is happening, something else occurs. Something pretty unexpected.
Yes. This is where the story takes a really dramatic turn. The army officers, the commanders of thousands and hundreds, they come to Moses.
Right. They finished their own count, haven't they? They've tallied up their soldiers.
They have. And they report something astonishing. They say, basically, we've counted every single man under our command who went into battle. And not one man is missing.
Not one, after a major battle. With all that action that led to capturing so much plunder.
Not a single loss among the Israelite soldiers. 0 casualties.
That's almost unbelievable for ancient warfare. How did they react? How did they understand that?
Well, they didn't chalk it up to just good luck or, superior strategy. The feeling, the understanding, was that this was God.
Divine protection.
Absolutely. A clear sign of God's hand protecting every single one of them through the fight. It felt miraculous.
And that feeling, that realization of miraculous protection, it prompted something more, didn't it? Something beyond those required tributes.
It absolutely did. Their response went way beyond just fulfilling the mandate. These commanders, they came forward with a completely separate offer.
An extra offering? What was it?
It was voluntary. And it consisted of articles of gold, things they likely wore or perhaps took as personal spoils.
Gold items. The text lists them, right?
Yes, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and beads, all sorts of crafted gold articles.
And they stated a reason for bringing this gold?
They did. They said they were bringing it to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord.
Atonement. Interesting phrasing. And do we know how much gold this amounted to?
Yes, the total weight was 16,750 shekels, which is a very significant amount of gold.
Okay, so this voluntary gold offering, this is really where that key insight from our source notes comes into play, isn't it?
It really is. The notes perfectly capture it. They gave not out of duty, but out of gratitude.
Ah, that's the core difference.
Completely. This wasn't about meeting the required percentage, the 1500th or the 150th. This was something else entirely.
It was spontaneous.
Yes. A willing, generous response driven by just overwhelming thankfulness for what they saw as a miracle,
Yeah.
that every single one of their men came back alive.
So it shifts the whole motivation. It's not we have to give this, it's we want to give this because of what we've experienced.
Exactly. That internal compulsion born from gratitude, not an external rule.
Oh.
It's a powerful contrast.
And what happened to all this gold, this gratitude offering?
Well, the text tells us in verse 54, Moses and Eleazar the priest received it from the commanders,
Okay.
and they brought it into the tent of meeting the tabernacle as a memorial for the people of Israel before the Lord.
A memorial. So it wasn't just, added to the treasury, it became a symbol.
A lasting reminder, placed right there in the central place of worship. It served as a permanent testament to God's faithfulness in protecting them, and also, importantly, to the commander's profound gratitude for that protection.
Wow. A physical marker of that event and that feeling.
And this story from thousands of years ago, it really brings up a principle that still resonates, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you think about your own life. Maybe you haven't fought that kind of battle, but we all have moments where we feel protected or provided for or blessed in ways that feel significant, maybe even unexpected.
Yeah, those moments happen.
So the question this story raises is, how does recognizing that affect your response? Does it make you want to do something, to give something that goes beyond just, what you feel you ought to do?
Does it spark that same kind of gratitude that leads to action?
Right. And think about that idea of a memorial. Maybe for you it's not a pile of gold in a tent.
Probably not.
Probably not. But could an act of generosity, a specific commitment you make, a way you share your story, could that become your own kind of memorial? A personal reminder of a time you felt profoundly cared for or helped.
That's a powerful idea. Creating personal memorials of gratitude.
Yeah. So just to sort of recap our dive here.
We went through Numbers 31, verses 25 to 54. We saw the commanded division of spoils, the required tributes.
Then that amazing report.
Yeah.
0 casualties.
Yeah.
Which was just stunning.
Absolutely. And that led directly to the commander's response, this voluntary, really heartfelt offering of gold.
An offering that wasn't about duty, but came purely from gratitude for being saved.
And the real takeaway, the core idea from the sources, seems to be about that distinction, that true gratitude often pushes us beyond obligation.
It makes us want to give or act or acknowledge what happened. And when giving comes from that place, it turns into something more like that memorial, a meaningful symbol of faithfulness and thankfulness.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. How could you, perhaps, create a memorial of gratitude in your own life for those moments of protection or provision? What does giving purely out of gratitude look like for you personally instead of just duty?